If they want to benefit from the security protection of the UK, they should also contribute fairly by paying taxes. This is not only a matter of fairness, but also a fundamental principle of a democratic and fair society.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we continue to talk about Harry's security in the UK. It will not be a new topic, but the details we share today are extremely new when now the cry will no longer be Harry's unilateral action. Even the UK government has joined in. Although they clashed and sued each other in 2020, it still continues to this day. Adam, what do you think about Harry's stubbornness?
Harry and his stubbornness are a never-ending story. I have to say, Harry really knows how to stand out in an argument. It's admirable how he persists in a fight that is not only costly, but also futile. We're talking about someone who has given up his royal duties but still wants all the perks, including high-level security. It's interesting to see someone, after voluntarily leaving his role, come back and demand the same benefits he gave up. It's like quitting your job and still expecting your old company to pay you and provide you with benefits. Unfortunately, life isn't that simple. Harry doesn't seem to realize that the safety and security of a country isn't something you can demand like an item on a supermarket shelf. He wants to go back to Britain, but he doesn't want to abide by the same rules and regulations as every other citizen. What an entitlement and arrogance. And let's not forget that the cost of Harry's protection is not small. The British people have suffered a lot financially, but Harry doesn't seem to care at all. He wants to be protected like a rock star without any responsibility. Perhaps Harry should take some time to think about what he really wants and what he needs to do to get it in a legitimate way. His stubbornness, instead of garnering respect, only makes people more sarcastic and frustrated. Instead of demanding, perhaps he should learn to accept the consequences of his decisions and find a way to live a new life without relying on the old privileges.
Yes, and it seems he wants an even bigger slice of the pie now that he's no longer an official member of the royal family. Now, with Sir Keir Starmer's new government in place, is there any chance for Harry? It is reported that Harry may have a new opportunity to negotiate his security arrangements in the UK under Sir Keir Starmer's Labour government following their recent electoral victory.
The arrival of Sir Keir Starmer's new government seems to have given Harry a glimmer of hope. Perhaps he thought the new government would be lenient and accept his unreasonable demands. But let's face it, the new government has much bigger issues to deal with than dealing with the personal security of a former royal. Harry may fantasize about persuading the new government to change policy, but the reality is that security regulations are not designed to please individuals. Governments must consider the public interest and use public money wisely. It is unacceptable that Harry and Meghan are spending millions of pounds on personal security when they are no longer performing official royal duties. Perhaps Harry should take some time to reflect on his decisions instead of constantly demanding them. He chose to leave the royal family to live a free life, but it seems he doesn't understand that freedom comes with responsibility. Demanding protection as a celebrity while not wanting to follow the rules as a normal citizen is absurd. So, what are Harry's chances under Sir Keir Starmer's new government? I think they are slim, if not non-existent. Instead of getting his hopes up, Harry should learn to accept reality and find a way to live a new life without relying on the privileges he has lost.
Maybe he longs for a world where he can travel freely without trouble, but still be protected like a rock star. Maybe there must be someone behind him who is instigating and cheering him on. I think that's Meghan's credit. Do you think so?
Who wouldn't want that? But life isn't a dream, and Harry clearly hasn't woken up from those fantasies. And Meghan, the one who's been pushing and cheering him on? Sure, she deserves credit for all of this. Meghan has clearly shown that she knows how to make waves. Since her inception, she's known for making a splash and creating drama. No one can deny Meghan's ability to stir things up. In fact, Meghan probably dreamed of a royal life but didn't want to abide by the rules and responsibilities that came with it. When she couldn't make that dream come true within the royal family, she pulled Harry away from it, hoping that they could have all the perks without the responsibilities. Harry may have imagined that he was still a prince and was protected as before, but the reality is that he had left his position. And Meghan, for all her cleverness, has probably convinced Harry that they can achieve this by constantly pressing and demanding. It is ridiculous to think that they might expect Sir Keir Starmer's new government to be more accommodating and acquiesce to these demands. Ordinary people, who are working hard to make a living, will certainly not feel sympathetic to these unreasonable demands. So yes, Meghan certainly has a hand in this. She has clearly demonstrated her ability to turn unrealistic dreams into endless campaigns of demands, rather than learn to live a real life and take responsibility for their choices. Both Harry and Meghan seem to be choosing the path of complaining and demanding. What a perfect combination for a never-ending scenario.
So why is Harry more hopeful under a Labour government under Sir Keir Starmer? Will there be looser policies under a Labour government under Sir Keir Starmer that are more beneficial or favorable to Harry?
Oh, Harry seems to be optimistically hopeful under Sir Keir Starmer's new Labour government, doesn't he? He must think that a new government will be more accommodating and will accommodate all his unreasonable demands. But it is naive to think that a government can and will change national security policy just to please one individual, especially one who has voluntarily left his position in the royal family. Let's be frank, governments, whether Labour or Conservative, face much more serious issues than addressing Harry's personal demands. Harry can fantasize about persuading the new government to change policy. But the reality is that security regulations are not designed to please individuals. Governments must consider the public interest and use public money wisely. And what about the Labour government's policy being more accommodating and in Harry's favor? What a delusional way of thinking. National security policy is not something that can be changed as easily as choosing a new suit. It is based on real needs and threats, not personal desires. Harry and Meghan may think they are special, but that does not mean they should be treated differently. A Labour government, if it truly cares about the interests of the country and its people, will not be able to easily accommodate such unreasonable and costly demands. Harry may hope that Sir Keir Starmer will see him differently, but I think he will soon be disappointed. His hope that a new government will change policy just to please him is a delusion. Instead of dreaming of an ideal world, perhaps Harry should start learning to accept reality and live the normal life he chose when he left the royal family. Life is not a fairy tale, and the government is not a fairy godmother who will make all his wishes come true.
Harry has always expressed a strong desire for his family to be safe and feel at home in the UK. In other words, Harry wants to ensure the safety of his family in the UK. So what is it about the UK that makes Harry feel so dangerous? What is he afraid of in the UK? And is America safer than the UK?
The fact is, the US is not a safer place than the UK in terms of danger. The US has a much higher rate of violent crime, including shootings, than the UK. Harry and Meghan live in California, where shootings and violent crime are not uncommon. If safety is Harry's main concern, he should be more worried about where he lives now. Not to mention that they often travel, and trips to other unfamiliar countries are many times more dangerous than the UK. The UK is where Harry was born and raised. So whether it is dangerous or not, he should know best. Don't use it as an excuse to show off your cunning and ambition. So, what really scares Harry in the UK? Is it public criticism and booing? It's funny to think that someone who was once a royal icon would be afraid of facing criticism. But remember, Harry has done a lot of controversial things, from stepping back from royal duties, to revealing sensitive information in his book, to giving dramatic interviews. He has upset more than a few people. The British public, who once loved and supported Harry, now feel betrayed. They are not afraid to express their discontent. And this may be the reason why Harry feels dangerous when he returns. He does not want to face the fact that his actions have created this hostility. So, is America really safer than the UK? Certainly not. What Harry really fears is not security threats, but facing the consequences of his actions. He is afraid of facing public criticism and judgment. The truth is, he is trying to avoid responsibility and hopes that by blaming security, he can hide his true fear. Instead of continuing to make unreasonable demands, perhaps Harry should have the courage to face what he has done and accept that he is no longer the beloved prince he once was. True safety comes not from running away, but from facing and dealing with the problems you have created.
It seems that Harry is looking to Keir Starmer as a lifeline. for reasons we have just analyzed. So how do you think Sir Keir Starmer will deal with the opposition from the British people who feel that meeting Harry's demands is unfair and unnecessary?
It is true that Harry is looking to Keir Starmer as a lifeline. But think about it. If Sir Keir Starmer and his Labour government actually decide to accede to Harry's demands, they will face a huge backlash from the British people. Those who feel that granting Harry's demands is unfair and unnecessary will not sit idly by. They will speak out, they will criticize, and they will demand answers. Keir Starmer's Labour government will face enormous pressure from the public, who are faced with more pressing issues such as health, education, and social security. If they decide to use public funds to protect an individual who has voluntarily stepped down from his royal duties, they will be seen as abandoning the interests of the majority in favor of a privileged few. This not only reduces people's trust in the government, but may also lead to a decline in political popularity and support. The British people will not easily forgive their government for prioritizing Harry's personal needs while they are facing daily difficulties. They will demand that Keir Starmer's Labour government clearly explain why public funds are being used for this, and why the needs of an individual are being put above the common good. If the government cannot provide convincing and transparent reasons, the wave of protests may become more intense, causing political and social instability. In this situation, Keir Starmer's Labour government needs to be careful. The decision to meet Harry's request may have unintended negative consequences, damage the government's reputation, and set a bad precedent. The British people will not accept the prioritization of personal interests over the public interest, and the Labour government will face a fierce public backlash if it does not take this issue seriously.
The fact that Harry is looking at Sir Keir Starmer's lax rules after the election victory shows Sir Keir Starmer's shortcomings. There is no favoritism or benefit for Harry in the current regime. Everything is equal now. It's just that Harry has done so many bad things that he is afraid. Do you agree?
Sir Keir Starmer needs to realize that meeting Harry's demands is not simply about providing security. It is a dangerous precedent that could undermine the system of fairness that the current government is trying to maintain. If Harry, who has given up his royal duties, is granted privileges that ordinary people do not have, it will cause deep public discontent. Harry's hope for a looser Labour government not only reflects his own personal fantasies, but also exposes the underlying weaknesses in Sir Keir Starmer's policies. The British people will not accept a government that favors the rich and famous, especially when they have voluntarily given up their responsibilities. Fairness and transparency are core values that a government must protect. Harry feels scared not because of a lack of security, but because he knows what he has done. Public judgment and criticism are inevitable. If Sir Keir Starmer wants to maintain his credibility and the trust of the people, he must treat Harry like any other citizen, without special privileges. Any concessions will be seen as a betrayal of basic principles of fairness and justice. Sir Keir Starmer's Labour government must be careful not to be drawn into Harry's unreasonable demands. They must focus on improving people's lives and addressing the pressing issues facing the country, rather than spending resources on protecting an individual who has abandoned his responsibilities. The right decision will not only maintain public trust, but also affirm that no one, royal or not, is above the law and the rules of the land.
Do you know that we had a £22 billion hole, which meant they needed to cut fuel allowance for pensioners? That's okay waste money on this man who wants to bring down our royal family and waste money on making sure people living overseas are protected from climate change, but throw pensioners under the bus. Especially, let's give Harry and Meghan their taxpayer security. We can all dig deeper in taxes to fund freeloaders, especially those that hate the UK and disrespect our traditions. What do you think about these?
First, we must acknowledge that having a $22 billion budget hole is a major challenge for the government and the economy. This has led to the need to cut fuel allowances for pensioners, a decision that will certainly have a significant impact on their lives, those who have contributed to society their whole lives. In this context, spending additional money on personal security for Harry and Meghan, who have chosen to live abroad and abdicate their royal responsibilities, seems unreasonable and unfair. Second, Providing security for Harry and Meghan from public funds means asking the British people, who are facing many economic difficulties, to pay more taxes to protect individuals who have voluntarily relinquished their responsibilities. This is an unfair decision, especially when compared to cutting allowances for pensioners. Harry and Meghan, despite their fame and power, should not be exempt from their financial responsibilities to the nation. If they want to benefit from the security protection of the UK, they should also contribute fairly by paying taxes. This is not only a matter of fairness, but also a fundamental principle of a democratic and fair society. Everyone, regardless of who they are, must bear financial responsibility for the community they live in. Harry and Meghan's decision to abdicate their royal responsibilities but still request protection from public funds can be seen as freeloading off a system without corresponding contributions. This further increases public discontent, as people feel neglected and not properly cared for by the government. Finally, respecting the traditions and values of the United Kingdom is also an important factor. Harry and Meghan have repeatedly criticized and condemned the royal family and the country's traditional values. Requesting protection from a country they have publicly criticized and left not only is a contradictory act, but also shows a lack of respect for those who are working to maintain those values. In this context, Sir Keir Starmer and his Labour government need to carefully consider any decisions regarding the use of public funds to protect Harry and Meghan. They need to ensure that all decisions are based on principles of fairness, financial responsibility, and respect for the traditional values of the United Kingdom. This not only helps maintain public trust in the government, but also affirms that no one, whether a member of the royal family or not, is above the law and regulations of the nation.
Actually, there have been negative moves. Here is the opinion of a British citizen expressed like this. If he somehow, as a foreigner, gets security protection, I will, as for a tax rebate, so I don't have to pay for him and his family. This Labour government have taken money from pensioners to fill an alleged black hole, so we don't need to pay for him, as it will make the black hole deeper. So what do you think about this opinion? This is clearly a direct threat that the government needs to pay attention to, right?
Sure. The opinion expressed by this British citizen reflects a significant level of frustration and dissatisfaction with the current situation. The sentiment that providing security protection for Harry, who is now living abroad, is unjust and an unnecessary burden on taxpayers is not only understandable, but also quite compelling. This view highlights several critical points that the Labour government under Sir Keir Starmer needs to address carefully. Firstly, the notion of fairness is central to this opinion. The idea that a foreign resident who has voluntarily relinquished his royal duties and benefits should not receive taxpayer-funded security is a reasonable stance. The citizens' demand for a tax rebate if such protection is granted underscores a growing discontent among taxpayers who feel their contributions are being misused. This sentiment suggests that many people believe their hard-earned money should be allocated to more pressing domestic needs rather than to individuals who no longer reside in the country and have chosen to step away from their public roles. Secondly, the comparison to pensioners is particularly striking. The fact that the government has taken money from pensioners to address a significant budget deficit, yet might consider allocating funds for Harry's security, appears deeply hypocritical to many pensioners, who are among the most vulnerable and deserving segments of the population, have seen their benefits reduced, which exacerbates their financial struggles. Meanwhile, providing security for someone who has chosen to leave his official duties feels like an additional and unjustified burden on the public purse. The opinion expressed is indeed a direct threat that the government must pay attention to. Ignoring such strong sentiments could lead to widespread public discontent and erosion of trust in the government's ability to manage public funds responsibly. If taxpayers feel that their money is being wasted on what they perceive as undeserved privileges for Harry, it could lead to broader demands for tax rebates or reductions, and more significantly, to political backlash against the Labour government. Therefore, Sir Keir Starmer and his administration need to consider these perspectives seriously. They must ensure that any decision regarding security protection for Harry is transparent, justified, and seen as fair by the majority of the public. It is crucial for the government to communicate clearly and openly about their decisions and the rationale behind them. This might involve outlining the security threats Harry faces, the costs involved, and why the government believes this expenditure is necessary. In summary, the Labour government must navigate this issue with great care. They need to balance the need for security with principles of fairness and responsible spending. Listening to and addressing the concerns of citizens is essential to maintaining public trust and ensuring that government actions are perceived as just and equitable.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Adam, the last thing I want to say to Harry is that, Harry, you're not that important. Look around at what's going on in the world. Home Office and 2 High Court judges have agreed over 3 cases you are not worthy of what you are demanding. Stop! Really, you want your family to feel safe? Well, if you had ever been a real soldier, you have known that the military for decades had to check their cars before letting their families get in it and drive away in case someone had put a bomb under it. That's ensuring your family is safe. All you ever were was a guy dressed in a military uniform. Especially, the government should not even contemplate paying anything towards Harry and his family's security when coming to the UK. If you can rob the pensioners of their heating allowance, then forget about giving Harry a penny. And now it's time for us to say goodbye. Thank you for watching our videos. Don't forget to support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Please express your thoughts in the comments section. I'm open to all your suggestions. Goodbye and see you again.
Thank you very much. Goodbye and see you again.